Oh, that's hot. That's toasty, but that's good. As a girl of the internet, it is my duty to make sure that you're fully aware of lists out on the internet that pertain to books, that pertain to novels. And I was perusing the web, as we do, as you should. We all share that in common. And a thought came to my mind. What were the most popular books of every decade? I specifically started with the 90s. And that brought me to LitHub, who had made this list called A Century of Reading, the 10 books that have defined the whatever year. They began it in the 1910s and they went all the way up until the 2010s. They stopped the list in 2018. Well, they haven't had a need to update it since because we still haven't reached a new decade since. Wait. Yes. That took a second. So anyway, I figured it would be fun to do that. I am very curious about this. Spoiler, I did check out the 90s and the 80s, but other than that, I haven't seen anything on here. So this is gonna be a fun thing. I enjoyed doing the 100 best books of the 21st century. So far, the little contentious list that the New York Times put out, so I figured why not? See how much blood we can get boiling with this list. So, hopefully, if I have done this correctly, you are now looking at a screen that says A Century of Reading, the 10 books that define the 1910s. You wouldn't believe it, but I wasn't alive during then. So some of these books might be a little bit of a shocker for you just as well as I wasn't alive during that time period. Also, the reason that I wanted to do this was I'm so fascinated by books that are considered classics or bestsellers, and then in 20 years we completely forget about their existence. So I want to see the books that defined a certain time and see if they've really held that weight. All right. 20 Years at Hull House by Jane Addams. I'm going to be honest with you. I have never in my life heard of that. Sorry, I don't know that book. I told you I wasn't alive then. I was just a little idea. J.M. Barrie, Peter and Wendy. Barrie's most famous story originated in 1904 as a play and was published in novel form in 1911. As with The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, the enduring popularity and relevance of the text is self-evident, but the older I get, the more I think it's relevant to modern American life. Never heard of it. Riders of the Purple Sage, Zane Grey. That's a name. That is a name, Zane Grey. Sounds like somebody who I would encounter in a coffee shop around here now. Hey, my name is Zane. Zane. Nothing against the Zanes of the world, but unique. Most popular novel of the Old West ever published. It's a Western. I kind of want to get into Westerns more. Is that a alarming thing? I don't know. Tarzan of the Apes, Edgar Rice Burroughs. No. But I'm assuming he was the creator of Tarzan. I know the story of Tarzan. Never read Tarzan of the Apes. Willa Cather. Oh, pioneers. I'm assuming that's how it should be said. Oh, pioneers. Not really. Willa Cather knew a little something about westward expansion. She was born in Virginia in 1873, but moved with her family to Nebraska when she was 10, to the small town life that would inform the first novel of her Great Plains trilogy. I love the Plains. Never read it, babe. Ooh, I'm killing it. Sigmund Freud. Okay, Sigmund Freud. I've never read that actually, but I'm curious to read that, though I feel like a lot would go over my head. I started to read the Id, and I enjoyed it. Also, look at that cover. God, the cover design from that time, it's something that can't be replicated as well as it was done then, but we should try to lean back into it. It's so good, so good. Tender Buttons by Gertrude Stein. No Gertrude Stein. Tender Buttons is considered to be all of the following: a masterpiece of verbal cubism, a modernist triumph, a spectacular failure, a collection of confusing gibberish, and an intentional hoax. What a woman. The Magnificent Ambersons by Booth Tarkington. Bring back those names. Bring them back. Zane Grey, Booth Tarkington, unbelievable. What you could accomplish with a name like that, Don't know that. An aristocratic Indianapolis family faces industrialization, social change, declining fortunes, and the influx of the newly moneyed. Don't know it. Ooh, W.B. Yeats. No W.B. Yeats. But The Wild Swans at Cool. No. Nope. Never read it. Winesburg, Ohio. Sherwood Anderson. One of the earliest and still one of the best linked collections. Each story is set in the same fictional small town. Interesting. Oh, okay. So that rounds it out. Those were the top 10 most popular, or, books that defined the 1910s. Have you read any? I haven't read any, but aware of the authors, so I feel like I'm in a pretty good position to horrifically judge them on the internet. They also have see alsos down at the bottom, which I imagine are books that kind of like almost made the cut. So that's the 1910s, my friends. Let's go to the 1920s. 10 books that define the 1920s. I feel like I'm going to start to get into more of books that I might recognize, more of books that I might have actually read. Agatha Christie, The Mysterious Affair at Styles. I've never read an Agatha Christie, actually. And I was thinking to maybe do a Halloween fall special on Agatha Christie. I always see them at yard sales, but I never read them. T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland. No. No, I have not. No, I have not. Ulysses. No, I have not read that. But I read Dubliners by Joyce, and I quite liked that, actually. I quite liked the last story in Dubliners with the party it's like winter time, and everybody's kind of scrambling to find their place within this place. I don't know if I would enjoy Ulysses because I think it would go over my head, and I'm sure if I strained myself hard enough I would enjoy it, and I would like to read it, but I have to be honest with myself, I don't know. Swan's Way. No, by Marcel Proust. Nope, haven't read anything by Proust. Is my computer frozen? Okay. And we're back. Sorry, there must have been an overload. So the next one is Jean Toomer. Don't know it. Kane. The Great Gatsby. Yes. Yes, I've read that one. And you know what? I don't care. I love it. I think it's a great book. I don't care. Mrs. Dalloway. Yes, I have read Mrs. Dalloway. It's a very existential novel. She's planning for a party, correct? This was a strange novel for me. I read this when I was younger. Maybe wasn't intelligent enough to understand that, but I did read that book. The Weary Blues by Langston Hughes. That's such a beautiful ring to it, right? That's so stunning. Nope, I haven't read anything by Langston Hughes either, and I would really like to, and that's a beautiful cover. The Sun Also Rises. No, I haven't read this one by Hemingway, and I want to read it, and I think I actually have it, and I will be reading it, because I want to focus on reading more of Hemingway. I like Hemingway. I do. Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner. No, I haven't read this one, but I've read As I Lay Dying, and it was very difficult for me, and I've heard that The Sound and the Fury is even more difficult, which makes you think. It's always interesting to me when I look at what was popular during a certain time period, and I know that there's the whole talk about people being kind of unable to read really now and being able to focus, and then you look at a book like, or an author like Faulkner, who was notoriously difficult to penetrate, and how it was such a popular novel, and James Joyce as well. The writing is notoriously kind of labyrinthian in the way that it presents itself, and those were popular, and people reading them is just astonishing to me, and I think really interesting. Okay, so that was the 1920s, and again they have a see also list, which is also novels that I imagine they think deserve the esteem as well. So let's do the 1930s. The 1930s. The Maltese Falcon, no, but one of my friends read it recently and said that it was amazing and it held up so well, and it was just a speed read and it was so much fun, and I would love to read it. Feels kind of in the same vein of Agatha Christie, like, oh, what's going on? You know? The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck. Never even heard of it. Again, great name. Say that the contents of this novel reflect American life in the 1930s, exactly beginning as it does in a pre-revolutionary Chinese village, but it was certainly a sensation of its time. Wow, it was the best-selling novel of 1931 and 1932. Never even heard of it. Interesting. Glad I'm doing this. The Joy of Cooking. Now, I know another joy of cooking. What's going on here? Her private cookbook in 1931. Am I insane? Brave New World. Yes, I have read Brave New World. Yes, I have done it. Yes, I have. As I'm sure a vast majority of people probably watching this have also been experienced. Metamorphosis. No, I haven't read it. I haven't read it. Gone with the Wind. No, believe it or not, also have not read that. But I read a very interesting book about the search for the main character in the movie. It was a nationwide search, and they never thought that they were going to find their woman. Nightwood. Dunya Barnes. No, but it's beautiful. Dunya Barnes' Nightwood is not much more than a couple hundred pages long. Ooh, I would read that. That sounds great. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I'm going to say something right now. I found that this was available on my Libby. And I kind of want to listen to it. Just very curious. Very, very curious. I mean, I know that this was a hugely influential book. Hugely popular. I would be interested to read it, honestly. Just listen to it. Zora Neale Hurston, Their Eyes Were Watching God. Yes, I have read that. Yes, I have. And I'm tempted to pick it up again. Grapes of Wrath. Believe it or not, no, I haven't read this one by Steinbeck. And I was just talking to someone on my Patreon about, she read East of Eden and Grapes of Wrath, and she said she preferred Grapes of Wrath. And I said, I want to read it even more now. I want to read it even more. I trust your opinion. All right, that was the 1930s. That was the 1930s. A Century of Reading, the 10 books that define the 1940s. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Native Son by Richard Wright. No, I haven't read it, and I see it all the time in used bookstores, and I'm so tempted to pick it up. I'll be honest, it's a little bit of a hefty read, so I feel like that's why I'm apprehensive to pick it up, but I know it's a good book. The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. A now classic story of loose handful of misfits in a small Georgia mill town in the late 1930s was something of a sensation upon its release. There have been candid camera studies of American life, past and present. There have been usual quota of sensitivity recorded novels of personal experience. But we have waited a long time for a new writer. A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. Yes! I read it this year for my Patreon book club. It's one of my new favorite books of all time. It's a great book, and it should be celebrated. The Little Prince. I actually have never read that. Did I miss out on a portion of my childhood? Is it something that I could have controlled? No, I don't think so. I just never read that. At least I don't think so. I don't think that my parents ever read that. A Street in Bronzeville. Poems published to wide and enthusiastic acclaim. Nope. Benjamin Spock. The Common Sense Book of Baby and Child Care. No. Goodnight Moon. This must have been a decade of child books, I guess. Goodnight Moon. Actually never read. I don't think so. Probably was read to me, but no, I never have. Sexual Behavior in the Human Male by Alfred C. Kinsey. I haven't read that, but I remember watching the movie Kinsey. And there's one scene in that movie that I think everybody kind of remembers. Late Night IFC, again, was watching that. The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. No, I have not read The Lottery, but I listened to We've Always Lived in the Castle. I quite enjoyed that. The hometown that I'm from, it's very close to Vermont, a place called Bennington, Vermont. I talk about it all the time, so you probably know that. She actually has a house there. Her house is still there. People are living in it, but you can see Shirley Jackson's house, which is kind of cool. George Orwell, 1984. Yes. Yeah, I am an American student, and I've read that. Yes, I have. All right. That was their picks. Their picks for the 1940s. 1950s, baby. The decade I was born. Just kidding. Or maybe not. Maybe I've been cryogenically frozen, and I'm coming out with my bouffant saying that it's me, baby. I don't know what I'm on about. All right, the 1950s, The Catcher in the Rye, yes, and I like that book. I don't care. I like that book. Makes me feel a little seen. The Invisible Man, no, and I was gonna buy this in a bookstore, a used bookstore, an antique store that I frequent all the time, and I was gonna buy it, and I didn't, because I said, I gotta go through the books I already have. Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451. Yes, I read this in high school. I have distinct memories of reading this in study hall. Study hall was something that we had that you just studied for a period, and you just kind of did nothing because nobody studied. But I read, because I always knew how to utilize my time. Fellowship of the Ring. No, I've never read any of the Lord of the Rings. We listened to The Hobbit for a little bit when I was driving down to Florida one year with my parents, but I definitely fell asleep a little bit. But I love the Lord of the Rings. I'm much more of a Lord of the Rings person over a Harry Potter person. I'm sorry. Eek. Sorry, gotta say it. Lolita. Yes, I have read that. I have read that. It's very well written, honestly. Notes of a Native Son. James Baldwin. No, I haven't read it, but I'm going to be reading my first Baldwin for my November book club pick, so I'll see you there. Atlas Shrugged. Nope, I haven't read that. Again, very, very big book. Right now, I'm trying to utilize my time. Jack Kerouac, On the Road. Yes, I have read that because I'm angsty. Exodus. Leon Uris. No. Things Fall Apart. No. That's a beautiful cover. All right, that was the 1950s. All right, we are in the 1960s, a time period, a time period. To Kill a Mockingbird. Yes, I've read that. Yes, I have, and I refuse to read her last published book. What is it? Go Find a Watchman or something like that. I have a little bit of contention with publishing things posthumously, but yes, I've read To Kill a Mockingbird. Stranger in a Strange Land, Robert A. Heinlein. No. Science fiction novel. Ooh. I'm not huge on science fiction, but I feel like I should introduce it more into my life. Maybe it would just expand my creativity a little bit more. The Feminine Mystique. No, I haven't read that. The Autobiography of Malcolm X. Nope. I have not read that. Ariel. Yes, I have read Ariel by Sylvia Plath. I'm actually surprised that's on there, and that's a killer cover. And then, wow, to top it off, I guess I love the 60s. In Cold Blood, I have read that. That's very, very fantastic. And Truman Capote is such, he loves to just get into it, and I love that. Slouching Towards Bethlehem, Joe Didion. Yes, I have read that. God, this hairstyle, this little cardigan, maybe I am the 60s. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. No, I haven't read this, but I want to read this. And I'll never forget, she was talking about how she got into reading and how she educated herself. And she started in the library with the A's and didn't stop until she got to the Z's with the whole catalog of books. And every time I'm in a library, I think of that, just how much knowledge she had consumed and how impressive that is. Kurt Vonnegut, Slaughterhouse-Five. Yes, I have read that, and that is a great book. That is such an easy-to-read book. I suggest that to everyone who just wants something quirky, strange, but also really fun to read. Portnoy's Complaint, Philip Roth. No. But I read my first Philip Roth last year, and I like his writing a lot. Okay, that was it. 1970s. Groovy baby. All right, 1970s. 100 Years of Solitude. Of course I've read it. Judy Blume, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. It's giving. Maybe. I'm sure that I've read this in high school, or I'm sure that I've read some adjacent novel of this in high school. I know there's a whole bunch of Judy Blume's novels, and I've read something similar, so I'm gonna say yes because I can. The Joy of Sex. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a book, honestly. Don't mix that up, next to The Joy of Cooking when you're trying to make some Brussels sprouts. You might have those Brussels sprouts. Those Brussels sprouts might be, wow. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Did I read that book or did I just watch the movie? That's a question I ask myself often when I see this. I can't tell you. I don't remember. Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. No. No, but I've read V by Thomas Pynchon, and to say that I am not intellectually adequate enough is an understatement. Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I actually have read that book, and I loved that book. My dad and I talk about that book all the time. It's like just a book that we have between us. And yes, I read that when I first came to New York City, and I like that. All the President's Men. No. Helter Skelter. Yes, I have read this. Yes, and that is a freaky mother book. Oof, the Manson murders. Absolutely. Roots. No, I haven't read the full thing, but I remember taking this out in high school and reading a pretty significant section of this. I would like to finish that, actually. Shining by Stephen King. No, and I almost picked that up. I almost picked it up, but that's kind of one of the ones where I'm thinking, will I like the movie more? Potentially. All right. That's the 1970s. The 1980s. All right, and the 1980s and the 1990s. I've kind of looked through, and you know what? I'm gonna add a couple more to my Yes You've Done It section. Yes, you've done it, Queen. All right, the 10 books that define the 1980s. What we talk about when we talk about love. What we talk about when we talk about love. What we talk about when we talk about love. And a new one that I've learned, what we talk about when we talk about love. How good is that? No, I haven't read it. The Color Purple by Alice Walker. Nope, but I've read another Alice Walker book. I would like to read this. Watch the movie. Again, great story, really great story. I'm surprised that was the 80s. Wow, 1982. For some reason, I thought that was earlier. William Gibson, Neuromancer. No, I've never read it. The House on Mango Street. That's from the 80s. I see that all the time. Haven't read it. A coming-of-age classic, a staple of middle and high school reading curriculums. Not in my school. I would like to read that, especially if it's a coming-of-age. I would like to read that. Touch my inner child, I guess. Lonesome Dove. No, I haven't read it. But when I made that video talking about big books and the best book, I can't talk. The best big books to read, so many people said this. And if it's a Western baby, this little old lady might have to saddle up. White Noise. No, I haven't, but I really want to read this. I read my first Don DeLillo. It was a short book, and it was bad. It was bad. I don't know what. It was like a COVID book, you know. It was bad, but I have faith in him. Beloved. You know, and I talk about this all the time. I can't remember if I read Beloved or not. I think I did. I definitely want to say that I did. So I'm going to say that I did. In the words of my dad, when people say, I want to say, he says, why don't you say it? So I'm going to say that I read it. Tom Wolfe, The Bonfire of Vanities. Nope, but I have read Tom Wolfe before. The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. A Brief History of Time, From the Big Bang to Black Holes. Stephen Hawking. No, I haven't. Salman Rushdie, The Satanic Verses. No, but I do want to read that. All right, so that is the 1980s. I know I said that I read some of those, but obviously I haven't. I think it's the 1990s that are going to be the ones. Oh, dear God, I hope. The Reading of the 90s. Do you remember the VH1? I love the 70s. They did those, whatever. The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. I've never even heard of that book. I'll be honest, I've never even heard of that book. I don't know what that book is. I don't know who Tim O.B. is. It's about Vietnam. Oof. Interesting. I would like to maybe read that. Angels in America. Yes, I have read that. And that is literally one of my favorite things I've read in a long time. I loved that. I read it again for my book club. It's a play, but reads like a novel. You can get so immersed in that. Jesus' Son by Dennis Johnson. Haven't read it, but want to read Dennis Johnson. DT. The Secret History. DT. TSH. DT. The Secret History. Trying to make it work and it's not working. Yeah, this is a great book. I read it. I loved it. I made a whole video talking about all the places that the book was based on. You should check it out. It's probably my favorite video that I've ever made. Check it out. Virgin Suicides. Again, a book that I'm like, did I read that? I'm gonna say that I never finished it, but it's at my house and I want to read it. David Foster Wallace, Infinite Jest, started to read that. Mama started to read it, got destroyed by a flood. Will Mama ever pick it up again? She might be a grandmama before she does that again, you know what I'm saying? But I liked what I read. I'm gonna have to say it, I liked what I read. Bridget Jones's Diary, never read it, but I love that movie. I don't care, I love that movie. Fight Club, yes, I read that. And I like Chuck Palahniuk. Again, I don't care, I like Chuck Palahniuk. He just feeds into the most base parts of who I am. I actually think that the movie's better than the book, though. Angela's Ashes, Frank McCourt. Yeah, I've read that. That's devastating. Listened to that as an audiobook as a kid, and then reread it as an adult. So good. So good. The Interpreter of Maladies. No. Nope. I haven't read it. I'd like to read that author. All right. Are we getting heated? Are we upset? Are our favorite books not on the list? I hope so. Keep the fury fueling us. A century of reading the 10 books that defined the 2000s. This was written in 2000. The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. I want to read that. One of my friends said that that's a great book. I didn't realize that that was only written in the 2000s, though. J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I haven't read any of the Harry Potter books. My brother did, though. White Teeth by Zadie Smith. Yes. Jonathan Franzen and the Corrections. No, I haven't read any Franzen. Don't come at me, okay? Don't come at me. Alice Munro, Runaway. Nope, I haven't read anything by Munro either. Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. No, I haven't, but they just reprinted it for the 25th anniversary, and I have a copy, so maybe it's time. Never Let Me Go by Ishiguro. Haven't read Never Let Me Go, but I have read Ishiguro, so I'm counting that almost as a win. Haruki Murakami, Kafka on the Shore. I have not read Kafka on the Shore, but read a lot of Murakami's book. What I talk about when I talk about running is one of my favorite books of all time, so sue me. The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Yes, I have read that. 2666 by Robert Bolaño. I had this book to read. It was given to me by my friend, and then he took it back, and I never got a chance to read it. I haven't read anything by Bolaño, actually. Am I ready for 2666? Are you ever ready? Are you ever ready? Oh, okay, that capped it out. We're into the 10s. We're into the 10s, baby. Let's see. What do you think is going to be on there? Again, are we heated? Are we upset? Jennifer Egan, A Visit from the Goon Squad. Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this a couple of times before. I get that this book was as popular as it was. It was good storytelling. I've reread it since I first read it when I was younger. I don't know. The Tiger's Wife. No, I've never heard of that. The Tiger's Wife. My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. Yes, I have read it. And if you don't remember, spoiler alert, it was number 1 on the 100 greatest books of the 21st century so far. So it's a big one. It's a big boy. The 10th of December by George Saunders. No, and I've never read anything by George Saunders. Sorry, sue me. Citizen, an American Lyric. This also came up in the 100 greatest books of 21st century so far. And I don't see this in bookstores often, so I'm surprised. My Struggle. I don't know if I'm going to get to that book, but I know there's a lot going on in My Struggle, and I have never read it, and I don't know if I will. A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. Yes, I have read that. I read that when I was first kind of getting into the book world, and I think I was very impressionable when it came to books that were popular at the time. I think it's good writing, and I think it's a good story. I think I might need to reread it. I read it fast. I read it hell fast. And I talked about it in my big books. That's a big book that you can read so quickly. The Sympathizer. Nope. I started to read that and I didn't finish it. Again, got destroyed by the flood. The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. Nope, I have not read that. And that one was incredibly popular. And I imagine it's great, but I have not read it. There by Tommy Orange. I see this book literally everywhere. And I was about to pick it up because I figured, okay, it's got to be amazing. I see this in so many thrift stores. I mean, maybe that means people don't want it. No, I'm kidding. I see this in so many thrift stores, and I I haven't picked it up, but I'm interested to. Oh, and that was it. And that was it. Okay. And there we have it. Those were the defining books of each decade from 1910 to 2010. What do you think? Are your thoughts aligned? Do you believe in that or do you hate it? Let me know. I want to know. I want to hear you scream in the comments if you disagree. For the most part, I'm totally ambivalent. I just think it's fun to see what books defined a generation, basically, and what books have continued to be popular in the whole sphere of things, and what books have completely fallen off and really maybe don't deserve the rightful recognition that they had, or have kind of snowballed into something that they shouldn't be popular for. Whoa, that was a lot of filming. Anyway, you guys are wonderful. You're fabulous. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you just enjoyed this chill little video. I just wanted to make something fun and that you could hopefully listen to in the background and just chill out and say, yes, I've read that, or no, I haven't. Doesn't make you a good or bad person. It's just fun to add things to your list of the infinite length of books that we want to read. So, thank you so much for being here. I will see you